This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
This episode is brought to you by Kia's first three-row, all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute and available lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. I've got a really fascinating guest with us today, Sani, and he is an AI and emerging technology thought leader. He's contributed to Forbes, and he's also the host of the Blockchain Brief podcast. He's recently written a book, which we'll talk all about, and we're going to talk all about AI technology, and I'm really happy to welcome him to the show. So Sani, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so kind of set the stage, talk about your background experience. Looks like you went to Harvard Business School and what you do now.
My background is that I started in the tech industry about 16, 17 years ago after business school and all that. I shouldn't be talking bad about business schools, but business schools don't make you business people or entrepreneurs. They make you great corporate employees. So I started my life in the corporate world. Worked in the corporate world for a while and very quickly realized that lifestyle, while financially very rewarding, wasn't in line with my values and principles. And so that was sort of my turning point where I left the corporate world and founded Veztek, which is a emerging technologies company. And what we do two things. We provide advisory and on-demand resources for emerging technologies to companies in the middle market, Fortune 500s, as well as government entities. So that's what we do at this time.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Kind of, and we were talking all about AI and the implications both in healthcare and elsewhere. So we'll start off this intersection of AI and business and then strategy for success and kind of explore how AI is reshaping businesses and industry with a focus on practical applications.
Absolutely. Lately, Web3 has been a big term in the industry, and everyone is talking about Web3. So instead of looking at AI or blockchain or other such technologies individually, my suggestion is that we look at Web3 holistically. And then that's when we get a more complete picture. In recent years, as you know, blockchain was a huge deal. Everyone was talking about blockchain. Bitcoin introduced the world to blockchain, and then everybody wanted to know what blockchain is. We did several large-scale projects in blockchain, built blockchain-based platforms, new business models, all kinds of good stuff. But I always had this feeling that blockchain is an excellent solution that hasn't met its match yet. The problem. It hasn't met a worthy enough problem yet.
Yeah.
So when AI became popular, we've been working on AI for quite a few years. I think the first larger project that we did in the AI space was in 2015. And 2022, when ChatGPT was launched, and all of a sudden, AI became a household name and everybody wanted to talk about it, then the picture started to kind of become more clear. Now you look at the whole bigger picture. So on one hand, you have data collection, right? So that's your humans collecting data, that's your machines collecting data, aliens collecting data, doesn't matter. So data comes from somewhere. Then you put it in the middle in a secure place. That's your blockchain. It's a secure database. Then you apply AI and machine learning models on it, and you find something insightful out of it, something actionable. And then you use different automation methods to, in some cases, automate different processes. So now it starts to make sense. But everything is based on that central layer, that's your data. So when we talk about AI, sometimes business leaders, they come to us and they say, well, I want to bring AI into my company. And my very first question is, do you have data? Because data is the foundation. Without data, whether it's your own or it's acquired from somewhere, there's no AI.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about it. But AI is changing business models wherever a business model is based on data, based on information.
Yeah.
Wherever you see that there is huge amounts, huge piles of data available. So what are those industries? Very first one and the first adapter of AI, first adopter of AI is your fintech, financial industry, finance, fintech, financial services, banking, everything in that universe. Then the second is healthcare, your former industry, right? Well, current too, right? So in the healthcare industry as well, because of the need for regulations and the way healthcare system works and the research and all that, we have huge amounts of data available. And there's a lot on the line. Lives are on the line, right? So there's enough motivation and there's enough data. We can implement AI-like technologies. You would think that AI would be huge in entertainment, and entertainment industry being one of the largest industries would be one of the first to adopt AI, but it wasn't. Although we had a meeting with Microsoft recently, and they demoed some of the products for the entertainment industry space, where AI will really change the face of AI industry entertainment industry, and how movies are made and films are made and stories are written and all that kind of stuff, right? So now it's going in that space as well. So long story short, any business that is heavily data driven, which is every business these days, regardless what you do, you use data one way or the other. Now, depending on the size of the business, data might be internal or external. And that's where the question whether you're going to build your own tool or you're going to adopt another pre-built, already available off-the-shelf tool, that becomes a relevant question then. But that's kind of how the AI is impacting the industry.
Yeah, I love that. I was listening to one of the Microsoft Satya's keynotes on YouTube, and he was talking about how AI is this general purpose technology. It's like an infrastructure, which we were talking about. And then we were actually talking about a very interesting thing where it's commoditizing mental labor, like the industrial age, like machines commoditize physical labor, and now AI is commoditizing mental labor. So talk about that role and the role that healthcare and either knowledge-based industries, lawyers as well. Talk about that.
The current form of AI is primarily machine learning. What is machine learning? Machine learning is look at this large sets of data, try to detect patterns, and then based on those patterns, determine how things need to be done, and then use that to create something new. A prime example of that is ChatGPT. You can go to ChatGPT and you can tell ChatGPT that, look at all the writings and speaking engagements of Chris. Then build me a virtual Chris. Write me a love note in the style of Chris. It'll do it because it has your style. It has, how you wrote. So wherever that data is available, what I did, I took last 10 years of my writings, uploaded them into ChatGPT, and I said, okay, now write me a business proposal or an article in Sani's style. I call it Sani.ai, right? And it does that, and it's like pretty close to how it's done. So that's commoditizing of mental labor, right? In the past, recently I finished a business proposal. In the past, that business proposal would have taken me several days, if not a whole week, to write. Using all my background, using all my knowledge, using all my research, and using my team to support me, then we would take about several days to a week to write that business proposal. Yeah. This time, I wrote that proposal over one weekend. As a matter of fact, I wrote it in one day, few hours, and then I took several more hours to go through it and make sure what it's producing is actually accurate. And that's a key point. AI at this point, it's not something that we can 100% rely on with eyes closed. You cannot replace doctors. You cannot replace other experts. We still need them because they are the ones who are going to make sure that the output of AI is accurate, right? So that was a side note. So another example that I've shared on different forums recently is that We built a product for an industrial environment help desk type situation where this help desk is created inside the industrial environment to support technicians working on different machines.
Mhm.
In the past, you would need one help desk person supporting 10 technicians. Now you have one help desk person supporting over 100 technicians, maybe even more. Why? Because we took all their FAQs and all their complex knowledge and solutions from the last 15, 20 years that are specific to this industrial environment and the machines they use. We put them in a custom GPT, trained it on their particular data, and we gave it to the technicians. And we said, carry it with you in your pocket on your mobile device. And if you run into a problem, if your machine is not running optimally, or there's a problem of any sort, pull out your phone, ask the question, it'll tell you what to do.
Mhm.
So now the mental labor of those people, the help desk people who are, 1 to about 10 technicians, now because the need for that mental labor has reduced so much that now you just need really one person there as a backup in case situations where GPT can't help for whatever reason, then you need a human. Generally speaking, humans are still cheaper than AI. There was a study just came out, I think, of MIT last week that said human labor is still cheaper than AI, but that's for now, not for too long.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because prior to ChatGPT, like my editing team, and that was spending on the order of tens of thousands per year for the team, and then with ChatGPT and AI editing and generative AI, yeah, I could reduce all my total cost for editing and everything was like in the less than $5,000 a year, and it was like
Yeah.
producing 10x my output. The other interesting question is you mentioned you alluded to surgeons or when we were conversing earlier, and there's this future where robotics could be doing the surgery, but we have governments and we have politicians blocking that. So you said that surgeons are okay for now against AI, but you said not for long. I'm curious. I'm just curious for my own edification if you think robots will replace surgeons.
Yeah. So a common question that I'm asked is AI going to take my job? Is AI stealing my job? And my response to that is AI is not going to steal your job, but other people who are very comfortable with AI, who are learning AI, they're going to take your job. They are your competition, not the robots. So at least for the time being. So having said that, AI is data driven. So wherever data or information, as we just talked about it just a minute ago, where, for example, a physician listens to a lot of information, takes data from the lab reports, for example, takes data from the history of a patient, and based on that, determines that this patient needs to either be referred to a surgeon or another expert specialist, or they need to take this medicine. This whole is very much data intensive process flow, right?
Yeah.
So in this scenario, you can easily replace, if not right now, maybe in the very near future, those physicians can probably be replaced because the whole process flow is exchange of information and nothing else. The surgeon scenario that we talked about is that surgeon takes all that information, so that can be AI, that part, but then surgeon uses their hands to perform a surgery. Of course, there are a bunch of machines out there that are claimed to be robotic surgeons, but they are actually remotely controlled or machine-assisted surgery type situations where a surgeon would use these machines as a tool.
Yeah.
The very first machine that was introduced not too long ago, within the last month actually, that performed a appendix removal procedure, and it was completely autonomous. So that was the first somewhat significant surgery that was done completely by a robot.
Wow.
So are we getting to a point where robots can completely replace surgeons? I doubt that. Probably, for a while, I think we're okay. And the reason is that risk is too high. And especially, I mean, your generation, my generation, I don't know if we're going to feel comfortable with a robot trying to remove our appendices, or anything.
Yeah.
We often talk about machines and what machines are going to do, but there's not a lot of talk about how humans relate with machines, right? If you get a chance, I would suggest that you read my book. That's my shameless plug there.
Yeah.
So in the book, I dedicated quite a bit of the conversation on humans' reaction to the machines. Even when machines are completely able to perform their tasks perfectly or even better in some situations, humans don't feel comfortable with the machines in some scenarios. In some scenarios, they do. I shared with you a quick story earlier before we started recording, is the story of this behavioral health group that we've been working with. So they have dozens of therapists who meet with their clients once a week, typically. And so the question was, the therapist meets with a patient once a week, but what happens during the week when the patient is on their own? So what if we gave them a virtual therapist, which is trained on the primary therapist that the patient is using, right? So if Chris is the therapist of a patient, the AI that we would give to this patient would be Chris AI, Chris.ai, right? Yeah. So that would be trained on Chris's method, Chris's conversations, Chris's history, knowledge, education, all that. So we did that, and then we ran a test study. And in the test study, we told these patients that you're going to have conversations with a AI therapist, and all your conversations will be recorded and will be used for training purpose. Are you okay with that? And they're like, yeah, sure. My assumption was that the patients would be very hesitant in opening up because, one, it's a machine. Two, we're saying everything you say is going to be recorded. When you go to a therapist's office, therapist tells you that everything you say, privacy, nothing will be disclosed, therapist-patient confidentiality and all that. With the machine, we said, no, we're recording everything. To my surprise, the result was patients were more open to the machine than to the humans. Even when we are saying the humans they're promising confidentiality, machine is not promising confidentiality. Yeah. But humans were more comfortable talking to a machine than to other human. And in some cases, they disclosed things that then we had to think what to do with that information, because one was a story of infidelity. It's like, oh, darn. Now, what do we do with this information? Of course, we didn't do anything. We just used it for the machine training purpose. But the moral of the story is that we have to take humans' reaction, human behavior into the equation as well when we talk about what machines can do. The question is not what machines can do. The question, also part of the question is, are we going to allow the machines to do that? In the story that I shared, humans were more comfortable talking to machines. But there are a few other stories that I have mentioned in the book where a machine clearly can do the job better than a human, but the human feels threatened by the machine and reacts negatively to the machine. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. I don't know what your question was. I've forgotten.
It's quite interesting because you talk about basically, because I know, for example, a lot of, for example, Tony Robbins, he is training AI to look through all of his, decades of videos and seminars and kind of compile it into this AI so that when he leaves, he can still continue on his helping others. And, this idea of telerobotic surgery, it's very interesting. Is it something that we're going to see like in the Terminator? How can people find out your book? I know you've written a book, and how can people find out more about the work that you do?
So the book is available on all booksellers platforms, your Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, all other places. So that's that. And what I do, the best way to connect with me is LinkedIn, because I share lots of information and industry updates and, all kinds of stuff on LinkedIn. So that's probably is the best way to connect with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And for all the audience out there, let's thank Sani for a very fascinating conversation. And, the term AI and the concept of AI is coming up more and more in everyday conversations. So I love having influencers and experts talk about it. Be sure to check out his book on Amazon, connect with him on LinkedIn. And with that, thanks so much for coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Chris. I really enjoyed it.